Wonderful. There's still some empty seats up front, tables up front. I realize the tendency is to avoid the front row, but in this case, you might want the front row. All right. Thank you all so much. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I know everyone has been waiting in great anticipation. Yes, there we go. Traveling long distances around the Bay Area to come and see our beloved artist, storyteller, Luke Slot. It means a lot to us in San Francisco, especially because in 2020, when everything shut down during the pandemic, we had the privilege of sheltering in place with Luke Slot. Yes. So we had the great bounty of Luke really leading all our holy days, and you can imagine what that was like, just so uplifting and beautiful, and the music that just sort of lifts the heart immediately. And tonight we're gathered here because Luke is back in San Francisco. And it's so wonderful. So I'll say a little bit about this particular tour that Luke has been on. Our Story is One. I'm sure on social media we've seen him in all sorts of places. I feel like you were just in Spain a few days ago, Luke. It's amazing. But a few things right before I say a little bit more about this particular sort of presentation this evening. If we could all just silence our phones, that would be really wonderful, just so we can tune out all the other noise and focus only on Luke and this beautiful presentation. However, we do welcome you to take photos and videos and share it on social media, please. If you could include the hashtag, Our Story is One, all one word, Our Story is One. That would be wonderful, because this is not only a beautiful sort of artistic presentation, but really an effort to raise awareness as well. So the more we sort of get the word out and share via social media, the better. So Luke Slot, everyone knows Luke Slot. We have especially the youngest members right here, our fans in the front row, ready for this to get started. But as you all know, Luke Slot is a singer and songwriter from Ireland. He's born into a family of artists in Dublin, and he took to music at an early age, regularly watching both his father, a trumpet player, and his mother, an actress, performing in Ireland's concert halls and theaters. In his teenage years, he began writing songs and was quickly signed up by Sony Music, but later set out on his own independent journey as an artist. At the age of 21, Luke joined the Irish Baha'i community, and its message of the unity of humanity and the oneness of religion began to influence his music. As a solo artist, he has released several albums and has traveled extensively, giving concerts and workshops in over 20 countries, from Europe and North America to the Middle East and the Pacific Islands. So in June of 2023, the Baha'i International Community launched a year-long campaign called #Our Story is One, in honor of the 40th anniversary of the execution of 10 Baha'i women in Iran in 1983. The Our Story is One campaign seeks to create worldwide solidarity with all people in Iran who continue to struggle with freedom and equality today. Luke recently completed a 3-month tour of Europe and is now offering his moving musical program across the US and Canada. The Our Story is One tour is dedicated to the people of Iran. So it's that moment we've all been waiting for. Please welcome Wasteland.
Thank you, Shabnam. Thank you so much. I just have to say it is wonderful to be in California, and it is especially wonderful to be in San Francisco for the reasons that Shabnam described. But I do have to correct Shabnam on one count. And I have to say that I would like to claim that it was my privilege to be sheltered by all of you and to feel this loving embrace of all my friends in the Baha'i community and beyond the Baha'i community here in San Francisco, who really took me in under their wing for those very, very difficult but very special first 4 months of the pandemic. And those 4 months remain so special to my heart, the friends that I made here, and especially with Charlene and Steve, who hosted me in their home and really have become like family to me. So thank you, Charlene and Steve, for inviting me back. And I would like to thank Shabnam for arranging this beautiful space for us here at University of San Francisco. So, before I begin, I know that I'm standing up here in front of everyone, but the reality is that there is a whole team of people who have been working very hard to make this event happen, who have been doing all sorts of things behind the scenes to prepare, to welcome us here, to open these doors, and put together every little detail, flowers and tables and seats and social media advertising and all this. So I just would like to express my thanks to the whole team who have made this happen and welcomed us here today. It is a privilege to be in San Francisco again. I've been on the road for about 5 weeks now across the US and Canada, and really making my way across the country, getting closer and closer to San Francisco, just brought me so much joy. I felt like I was little by little making my way home. So it's unfortunately my visit here is very brief, but I really hope to come back again and again and again. So I wanted to emphasize something about this concert. This concert, and in fact this whole tour, is really just one small part of this campaign, which Shabnam mentioned, called Our Story is One. This campaign has become almost like a worldwide, global, year-long movement. And it was launched almost exactly a year ago on June 18th, 2023, to mark the 40th anniversary of the execution of these 10 women who were all hanged in a single night, simply for the crime of having faith. And this campaign was launched in their honor. And the campaign has 2 purposes, really. The first purpose of the campaign is to honor the memory of these 10 women and to honor the values and principles that they stood for. Principles like freedom of belief, freedom of conscience, equality, justice, truthfulness. These were the things that they gave their lives for. And actually, if you search online for Our Story is One, if you go on any social media platform, or if you just Google Our Story is One, you will see this incredible outpouring of artistic tributes to these 10 women. Paintings and poems and songs and films that have been created, all inspired by these 10 women. And seeing these works of art all over the internet makes these women feel very much alive today. So that's the first purpose of the campaign. The second purpose of the campaign is broader. It is to, this campaign seeks to express a sentiment of solidarity with and support for the people in Iran today, particularly women in Iran and minorities in Iran, who, as I'm sure many of you are aware, have been suffering greatly under great restriction of freedom, and who have been struggling for basic human rights and freedoms. And so I wanted to actually address a question that I assume often occurs to people when they hear about this tour. People sometimes ask, well, why is an Irish musician singing about the people in Iran? And I wanted to say, firstly, as Shabnam mentioned, I myself became a Baha'i in Ireland in my 20s, and so I've just naturally, through my Iranian Baha'i friends, I've learned about the difficulties of life for many people in Iran. But I've also been, it also breaks my heart when I learn about the situation of my fellow artists and musicians in Iran today, who don't have the same freedoms that I have to write songs and sing about things that are important to me. You may have heard of several musicians who have been arrested simply for writing songs. There is a musician in Iran currently sentenced to death because he lent his voice to the women's rights movement in Iran. And this feels very close to the bone for me. And I feel compelled to use the freedom of expression and my voice to highlight the freedoms of which they are deprived. And so what I'd like to do tonight is invite you with me on a kind of a musical journey. And we're going to gradually make our way towards the story of these women. But I'd like to begin this journey by dedicating this first song to all those people in Iran who are suffering and struggling in daily life. Many behind bars, but who have not given up on hope for a better future. Sometimes when we look at the world today, we see all these wars and injustices and corruption. And it's very easy to lose hope. And I think it takes a kind of a courage to hold on to a vision of hope for a better future. And I think these women were a remarkable example of that courage. So this is dedicated to all those people in Iran, the women, the minorities, the freethinkers, the hopers, who are holding on to a vision of a better future for all humanity. Even if the world sometimes looks like a hopeless wasteland. I made you a promise, and I don't want to break it, but I found it hard to believe that we had what it takes. And though I may be wrong in all my speculations, I can still recall the pain when we stood with our souls stark naked. You made me a promise, and it's not like you to fake it, but I found it hard to conceive the time it would take. And you may prove me wrong with all your new creations. Yeah, I can still recall your face when you told me one day we'll make it. And this wasteland will blossom like heaven, and all the colors we painted here will merge into one. And there will be no religion day. No more endless division, just love, hope, and faith in the wasteland, in the wasteland, in the wasteland. I saw you down at the landfill with the photographs you sold, and you loved them like a child, though your face was getting old. And though all we have is a dust heap, we'll make it beautiful yet. And when the breeze of spring comes back, this cold winter we'll forget. And this wasteland will blossom like heaven. And all the colors we've painted here will merge into one. And there will be no decision that we won't all make as one. No more senseless collision when these fickle wars are done. No, there will be no division of sex, color, class, or creed. Just one world to belong to, and one color of blood to bleed. In the wasteland, in the wasteland, in the It's going to consist of a mix of some songs and stories, some poetry, some memories, and what I hope is that this experience, this journey that we're going to go on, I hope that it gives us a little pause from all the cares and tasks and responsibilities of life, and just gives us an opportunity to actually focus and reflect on what is really important in life, what is really important in the world, what is important for the future of the world. And one thing, as we set out on this journey, one thing that's very important to remember is that these 10 women were executed for their beliefs in the context of an extraordinarily rich heritage of freedom of belief in their homeland. And so with that in mind, as a point of departure for our journey, I wanted to tell you a little bit about a peculiar ancient treasure that I once saw on a visit to the British Museum in London. And if you ever go to the British Museum in London, you will see this ancient treasure on display there. In fact, it's one of the most significant artifacts from the ancient world. It is a large cylindrical stone tablet known as the Cyrus cylinder. And all around this stone tablet there is an inscription engraved into the stone. And this inscription has been described historically as the world's first charter of human rights. And it was created by an Iranian whose name was Cyrus. Cyrus the Great, or as Persians know him in their own language, Kurosh. Kurosh, Cyrus the Great, was the founder of the ancient Persian Empire, the precursor to what we know today as Iran. And to this day, Kurosh, Cyrus the Great, is regarded by many people of many different cultures and different nations around the world as one of the most noble kings who ever lived, because of the fact that he created an empire that was explicitly built on the principle of freedom of belief and the protection of individual rights. So, long before the Geneva Conventions and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights after the Second World War, an ancient Iranian king proclaimed across his empire the world's first charter of human rights. And this charter protected the rights of all people under the rule of Cyrus the Great to practice their own religion in safety, to express their beliefs, and to preserve their own languages and their own cultures. And the heritage of Cyrus the Great has been described as a heritage of human understanding, of tolerance, of courage, of compassion, and above all, of human liberty. So a very beautiful, admirable heritage, not only for the people of Iran, but for the whole world. And actually, I wanted to show you something. I have here a miniature replica of the Cyrus cylinder. This just came from a museum. And I'd like to pass it around the room, and you can, as we go through the story, you can feel free to pass it around. It's just a souvenir, so don't worry about it. And I'll pass this to you. It can make its way around the room, and I'll pick it up. So, by the 1970s, over 2,500 years had passed since Cyrus had created his empire. And the people of Persia, or Iran as we now know it today, had gone through this dramatic history of highs and lows and ups and downs that would make the world's most extreme roller coaster feel like a walk in the park. Great dynasties had risen up and crashed to the ground. Religions had been born, peoples had conquered peoples, and this extraordinarily rich heritage of art, literature, poetry, architecture, science, medicine, philosophy had blossomed out of Iran. And this heritage of Iran continues to exert a profound influence on the wider world. In fact, just a couple of years ago, I read an article about how the number one best-selling author here in the United States is in fact the English translations of an Iranian poet. His name's Rumi. Well, also by the 1970s, the people of Iran had watched as many of their rulers throughout the ages had drifted away from the example of Cyrus, sometimes into moments of corruption, and sometimes even into periods of tyranny. And so in 1978 and 1979, certain groups of people in Iran rose up in a revolution to overthrow the Shah, the king of Iran. But the ultimate result of this revolution was not what most Iranian people wanted. Because when the Shah finally accepted defeat, there appeared in Iran a power vacuum like never before. And this power vacuum was swiftly and ruthlessly filled by extremist fanatics who claimed that they possessed divine authority to rule over the people. And among these leaders, it seemed as if the memory of their ancestor Cyrus that simply vanished from their minds, from their pulpits. They proclaimed that the very notion of human rights was a Western concept, incompatible with their society. And so, from 1979 onwards, the people of Iran found themselves suddenly deprived of so much of the freedom and the progress that they had made. And they found themselves under extreme restriction. Artists, musicians like myself, writers, journalists, teachers, scholars, even students found themselves being arrested and thrown behind bars. Women, as a group comprising half the population of the country, suddenly found themselves under extreme restriction and systematic oppression. And there is a very poignant short poem by the Iranian poet Halu, which describes this strange reversal of fortunes that happened to the Iranian people in 1979. And I'd like to ask Masoveda to share with us this short poem by Halu.
February 1979. Amidst the chaos of the revolution, a prisoner wrote on the wall in Evin prison, "People, be aware. Very soon the Ayatollahs will topple the monarchy and prisons will turn into universities." Many years passed and I kept asking myself, what about all those nice promises? When is it going to come true? Then I landed in prison and I saw with my own eyes students and scholars everywhere. That's how the prisons turned into universities.
Thank you, Masoveda. So, I'd like to dedicate this next song to all those heroes in Iran today who have not forgotten their ancestor Cyrus and who continue, often at great danger to their own lives, to stand up and defend human rights in their homeland. This song is dedicated to the great Iranian lawyer Nasrin Sotoudeh, and to the Nobel Peace Prize winning defender of human rights, Shirin Ebadi, and also to Narges Mohammadi, who you may have heard just last year was also awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for her work defending human rights, and particularly women's rights in Iran, and who remains in prison today. This is called In the Shade of Paradise. There is a prison cell in old Tehran, and within a woman there, a child grows strong. There is a prison of poems unknown in old Shiraz, and from its invisible floors of stone, a warning rose, when the towers in the sky fall and the river changes course, the powers up on high give in to the call, you will hear the people cry. Where did all the lovers run to? When did all the heroes die? Well, didn't you look behind these walls? They live on a plane of sacrifice. There is a rose garden in Esfahan, and in it the nightingales sing their midnight song. When the towers in the sky fall and the ocean pulls its tide, and the powers up on high give in to the call, you will hear the people sigh. Where did all the lovers run to? When did all the heroes die? Well, didn't you look behind these bars? They live on a plane of sacrifice. What did all the mothers come to? Where do all the sisters hide? Well, didn't you look behind these veils? They live in a sea of tearful eyes. Where did all the lovers run to? When did all the heroes die? Well, didn't you look behind these walls? They live in the shade of paradise. 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 There is a prison cell in old Tehran. So, in 1979, the people of Iran entered a new chapter of their homeland, of their history. And this chapter, some 45 years later today, this chapter is regarded by many Iranians as one of the darkest chapters in the history of their homeland. Apart from targeting artists, poets, musicians, women, teachers, educators, journalists, free thinkers. The new leaders immediately began clamping down on Iran's religious minorities. Iranian Jews and Christians, Zoroastrians, Muslims who disagreed with the new government were all targeted and harassed, often being made the objects of brutal atrocities at the hands of their own government. But among all of these groups of people being harassed by the new Iranian leaders, there was one group towards which the government became particularly vicious. And this was, in fact, Iran's largest religious minority, the Baha'i community. And I'm not going to explain in detail what the Baha'i community is or what the Baha'i faith is. That's not the reason that we're here tonight. But there is a short saying of Baha'u'llah, who was the founder of the Baha'i faith and who was himself an Iranian, which says that it is better to be killed than to kill. It is better to be killed than to kill. And I think this short saying speaks volumes about the way in which the Baha'i community in Iran has responded to the cruelty that it has received from its own government. Because from 1979 onwards, as the new government gained more and more power, Baha'is all over Iran were arrested simply because of their personal beliefs in their heart. They were often tortured, imprisoned, their family homes were confiscated or sometimes simply set on fire. Even their sacred places and cemeteries were demolished and desecrated. New laws were enacted, officially dismissing Baha'is from their jobs and expelling their children from schools and universities all over Iran. And yet, despite this cruelty that they have faced, the response of the Baha'is in Iran has been noted on an international level for its unique character. And their response to systematic persecution by their government has been so unusual that it has actually been studied by sociologists and academics and government institutions all over the world, and it has been given a special name called constructive resilience. And I love this phrase, constructive resilience. It's such an empowering couple of words. It speaks of a kind of strength and a kind of an empowerment to focus on building something good, even in the face of great hardship and great cruelty. Constructive resilience. And one example of this constructive resilience is the way in which the Baha'is in Iran have responded to the denial of their right to education. This was actually the subject of a documentary film made several years ago by the Iranian journalist Maziar Bahari. Maziar Bahari is not a Baha'i himself. He's a journalist. He was in prison in Iran for his journalism. And when he came out of prison, he wanted to tell this fascinating story of the Baha'is and education in Iran. And the film was called Education is Not a Crime. And the story goes something like this. After the revolution of 1979, as more and more Baha'is were fired from their jobs and their children expelled from schools and universities, the young people in that community were growing up without any prospect of a future, without any prospect of developing their talents or gaining skills or of intellectual flourishing. They had no prospect of fulfilling their dreams, of becoming a doctor or a nurse or an engineer or an architect or a teacher or a musician. And so in response to this situation, certain volunteer teachers and professors, many of whom had lost their own jobs, started to offer secret university-level classes in the family homes of these young people. And these professors would smuggle school textbooks into people's homes, and they would sit with these young people at their kitchen table, and they would deliver to them university-level courses in law and accountancy and medicine and economics and art and science and music. Anything you can imagine. And these young people fully understood that at the end of all these studies, they would sit no official exam, they would gain no qualification, and they would get no job. They understood this, and yet they kept coming back simply for the love of learning, the love of knowledge and understanding and the enrichment of the human mind and the human spirit. And these classes started popping up at kitchen tables, in family homes, all over Iran. And this secret network of teachers and students became, for all intents and purposes, a kind of underground university. Spread throughout the entire country, and yet completely invisible to the authorities. And it became known as the BIHE, the Baha'i Institute of Higher Education. Well, eventually, the authorities found out about the BIHE, and they launched a systematic campaign to destroy it. Family homes were raided, teachers were arrested and thrown in prison, textbooks were confiscated, and every effort was made to shut down the BIHE. But you know, by the time that the Iranian authorities found out about it, it was too late, because so had the rest of the world. And the BIHE was being recognized in the international academic world for its outstanding levels of education. And to this day, over 110 universities all over the world, here in the United States, back home in Europe, in Australia, 110 universities have granted scholarships to students from the BIHE and have brought them from Iran to their campuses to continue their studies and develop their careers. And I've had the great privilege of, on my own travels, of meeting students from the BIHE who began their studies in secrecy in Iran and are now living beautiful, flourishing lives and are using their talents to contribute to the countries in which they live. You may well have some here in San Francisco. So I would like to dedicate this next song to the teachers and the students of the Baha'i Institute of Higher Education who persevered towards a vision of hope, and even in the face of great adversity. This song is also intended as a reminder that often, for all the noise and destruction that we hear about in the world, there are also wonderful, constructive things taking place that we don't always hear about. But they're working away behind the scenes, building, building, building. Almost as if they're invisible. But they're there. As if they're hidden behind a veil. This is called 100,000 Veils. Come down and walk these roads around the city of Tehran, where 7 candles follow me, all you who claim to be possessed of charity, down to the crimson sea. 100,000 veils have covered the sun, and darkest clouds have blocked and blackened the blue sky. Did you hear the fate of those who educate, who even in the grave find no respite from hate? Have you seen the youth who gave their lives for truth? That girl who kissed the noose and welcomed all abuse. 100,000 suns have fallen to earth, with blasts that block the ears from hearing the new song. 100,000 veils have covered the truth. How many mothers' cries are lost in the tumult? There is no war to fight. You have no sacred right, no holy book to cite, to make these wrongs seem right. Does it so offend to want this world to mend, to walk in hope to the end, and see each man a friend? Come down and walk these roads around the cities of Iran, which boast so much to man. So I'm sure that many of you are no doubt aware of the woman life freedom movement, which erupted into the global spotlight just a little less than 2 years ago, after the death of a young woman in Iran, a 22-year-old woman in Iran named Gina Mahsa Amini, who died while in custody after she had been arrested and had been really violently assaulted by the authorities for wearing her headscarf incorrectly. And Gina Mahsa Amini's death sparked this nationwide movement all over Iran, which then spread all over the world, led by women and supported by men and children too, determined to highlight this issue of the deprivation of women's rights and women's freedom in Iran today. And what's interesting is that this cause, this movement for women's freedom and women's dignity in Iran, actually stretches further back into Iranian history than many people realize today. And these women who today are striving and struggling and fighting for basic freedoms in Iran, freedoms like, the freedom to choose how to dress, freedoms that we all enjoy in this part of the world, these freedoms that they are deprived of in Iran, women that are fighting for them, actually have in their own Iranian heritage a remarkable predecessor, an extraordinary Iranian woman who lived in the 19th century and whose name was Tahirih, which means the pure one, Tahirih. And Tahirih was a phenomenon of 19th century Iran. She was a gifted poet and writer, extraordinarily powerful public speaker. She was an accomplished scholar, extremely well-educated, deep-thinking, an accomplished philosopher, theologian. And she was also one of the leading figures in the very early days of the Baha'i faith in Iran. And to this day, this woman, Tahirih, is regarded by many people all over the world, not just Iranians, but by many people, both women and men, as one of the greatest women in world history. And she is looked to as an example of courage and commitment and dedication to the cause for women's rights and freedom and respect and autonomy. And so I've written a song in tribute to this woman, Tahirih. But before I play this song for you, I wanted to share with you a little story about Tahirih. And hopefully by the time we get to the song, we'll all feel like we know her a little bit better. So, for this part of our journey, I would like to invite you all to use your imaginations for a moment, because we're going to travel back in time. So I want to invite you to use your imaginations, close your eyes if you wish, and we're going to travel back in time. We're going to travel about 175 years back in time to the year 1848. And 1848 was a very peculiar year in world history. 1848 was a year that witnessed this sudden eruption of social movements that appeared like a cascading chain of movements across large parts of the world, across Europe, across large parts of Latin America. These movements of people in different countries rising up and calling out for change, calling out for justice and fairness in their societies. And this sweeping cascade of revolutionary movements led to the year 1848 becoming known as the springtime of the people. The springtime of the people was 1848. Well, in the summer of that same year, as all these revolutionary movements were sweeping across large parts of the world, a quieter, yet equally historic and impactful event took place in a little corner of the Iranian countryside. This was a gathering of less than 100 people who had come together to consult on the new teachings of the Baha'i faith. And an incident occurred at that gathering which shook Iranian society to its core. And sometimes I think that Iran, even today, has still not recovered from what happened at that gathering. And at the center of this incident was this woman, Tahirih. So just to give you a sense of how serious this incident was, it's important to understand that Tahirih, just like all the other women in her society, as was the custom of her time, had lived her day-to-day life with a veil covering her face in public at all times. And this was a custom of her time and place that was just so deeply ingrained in the fabric of her society that just the mere notion of ever seeing a woman's face in public was just unthinkable. It just wasn't done. It probably didn't even occur to people. Well, at this gathering, in the Iranian countryside in the summer of 1848, Tahirih, like a bolt of lightning striking at the very root of 19th century Iranian society, appeared before that gathering, unveiled. At this act of defiance to the social norms and the expectations of women of her time was so shocking to the people at that gathering. It was so incomprehensibly scandalous, horrifying even, that she sent a wave of panic through that gathering. It was as if they were watching the very fabric of their society unraveling before their eyes. And there is an eyewitness account of this incident, which was recorded by a man who was present. And I'd like to ask Aliyah to share with us this eyewitness account. Thank you, Aliyah.
Suddenly, the figure of Tahirih, adorned and unveiled, appeared before the eyes of the assembled companions. Consternation immediately seized the entire gathering. All stood aghast before this sudden and most unexpected apparition. To behold her face unveiled was to them inconceivable. Even to gaze at her shadow was a thing which they deemed improper. Quietly, silently, and with the utmost dignity, Tahirih stepped forward. Her unruffled serenity sharply contrasted with the affrighted countenances of those who were gazing upon her face. Fear, anger, and bewilderment stirred the depths of their souls. "This day is the day of festivity and universal rejoicing," she announced. "The day on which the fetters of the past are burst asunder. I am the blast of the trumpet, I am the call of the people."
Thank you, Aliyah. So, this woman, Tahirih, she was like a comet that just blazed across the horizon of 19th century Iranian society, and in many ways set a standard of courage and commitment for the women who are continuing her legacy and fighting for their rights and their freedoms today. In fact, in response to one of the many death threats that she received during her life, Tahirih once famously proclaimed, "You can kill me as soon as you like, but you cannot stop the emancipation of women." And the brave women of Iran today are living what Tahirih taught. So brightly did this comet of Tahirih blaze that eventually the authorities of her time caught up with her. And in the year 1852, Tahirih was captured and arrested by a group of military officers who strangled her to death and threw her body down a well and covered it with stones and rubble, hoping that she would be forgotten forever. But she was not forgotten, and I would like to sing a song in tribute to her right now. As I play the opening chords of this song, I wonder if Cassandra would read a quotation for us. Cassandra, would you like to, or Yes. It's number 3. So as I play these opening chords of this song, Cassandra is going to share with us some words of tribute to Tahirih, written by a man of her time.
May future generations be enabled to present a worthy account of a life which our contemporaries have failed adequately to recognize. May future historians perceive the full measure of her influence and record the unique services that this great woman has rendered to her land and its people. May the followers of the faith that she served so well strive to follow her example, recount her deeds, collect her writings, unfold the secrets of her talents, and establish for all time in the memories and afflictions of the peoples and kindreds of the earth.
Close all your books and enter this school. I'll show you the secret of a new golden rule. Lay down your letters and run to the field. Your sword in this battle is the tongue that you wield. Oh, Tahirih, Tahirih, you were the eye that saw far away, far away. You took my breath and my heart away on the day when the heavens did roar and the earth cried out for more. You were the moon in the cold winter sky. The rays of your mind, the solace of my eye. And you were the blast to raise up the dead. The sound of your voice ever ringing in my head. Oh, Tahirih, Tahirih, you were the eye that saw far away, far away. You tore the veil from my heart away on the day when the oceans did boil and the sun kissed the soil. Chase every demon, expose every lie. Welcome the day of a great sober sigh. Put on your dress for the wedding once more, and cast me a smile as you pass through the door. Oh, Tahirih, Tahirih, you are the wing for this broken, lost bird, the one lonely letter that makes well a word. So Godspeed the day when your trumpet blast will be heard, and lo, the dead will rise. The ones who sowed this veil of lies will fall away before your face. Tahirih, Tahirih, where do you lie? Beneath stones and rubble, or in the glistening of my eye. Tahirih, Tahirih, where do you lie? Are you not the object of every man's sigh? draw our attention to these 10 remarkable women. These examples of courage in the hope of a better future, who are being remembered this year. And just for a moment, I'd like to introduce each of them to you by name. First is Izzat, the eldest of the 10. Nusrat, here with her son. Tahirih, named after the great Tahirih of the 19th century. Pictured here on her wedding day with her husband Jamshid. Zari, Rashid, Akhtar, Shaheen, who was known as Shireen, it's sweet. Simeon, Royal, and finally Mona. And these 10 women were people like us. They were living their lives, looking forward to their futures, dreaming their dreams. We all have our dreams, don't we? Most of them were in their 20s at the time of their execution. Some had been recent college students. Several of them were nurses who worked very devotedly in hospitals in Iran, caring for sick and injured people. One of them was a mother in her 40s. That's Nusrat in the middle on the bottom. Another was a mother in her 50s. That's Izzat on the bottom left. And another was Izzat's own 23-year-old daughter, Roya, on the top left, mother and daughter together. And in 1982 and 1983, one by one, each of these 10 women were arrested and were charged by their government with a long list of crimes. One of their crimes was teaching children's classes, something like Sunday school, where children in a neighborhood will come together and learn stories and sing songs and say prayers together and learn about what it means to be honest and kind and fair and to share things and treat people kindly, virtues and character, the things we all know are important to learn when we're children. And these children's classes are just a normal activity of Baha'i communities all over the world. And Baha'i communities offer these children's classes as a service to their local neighborhoods and cities for children of all backgrounds and all walks of life to come and have a nurturing, wholesome environment in which to grow. We have these classes in Ireland. I'm sure you probably have them here in San Francisco. They're everywhere. But in Iran, teaching these classes for children was a crime. The younger women among the 10 were charged with the crime of simply being unmarried. This was also considered a punishable crime. All 10 of them were accused of being spies, sent by foreign powers to infiltrate Iran and to destroy their own country. And the list gets more and more preposterous as you go through it. But at the top of this list was their greatest crime. And that was the crime of simply believing in the Baha'i faith in their hearts. And for this crime, without any access to legal representation, without any proper trial procedure, these 10 women were imprisoned for months on end, sometimes being subjected to periods of solitary confinement, and even physical torture. At times, these women were chained face down on wooden tables and were whipped on their backs and on the soles of their feet, sometimes 100 lashings at a time with a wire cable. And throughout all of these months of abuse, these women were repeatedly asked to renounce their personal beliefs. Again and again, they were asked and asked and asked, and again, all 10 women refused and refused and refused. And eventually, on June 18th, 1983, the orders came down from the authorities to bring their imprisonment to an end. And I'd like to ask Masoveda to share with us some eyewitness accounts of that day, almost exactly 41 years ago.
It was late afternoon of the 18th of June when the prison visit was over. Shortly afterwards, the guards called the 10 women and ordered them to board a bus. They were Mona, Roya and her mother Izzat, Shirin, Zareen, Rashid, Simin, Akbar, Tahirih, and Nusrat. The bus driver who transferred them from Adalabad to the execution site was greatly affected by the bravery and strength of the women, and he recalled that moment as follows. I thought they were going to be released until we came up to the gate for the security check. That was where we found out that the ladies were going to be executed. All the way they were chanting. They were all cheerful and proud. Another witness was one of the executioners who put the rope around their necks. He told the mother of one of the girls, "We gave them the opportunity to recant up to the last minute. First we hanged the older women, and then it was the turn of the young girls, one by one in front of the rest. The youngest was last. We thought they would be so frightened that they would recant. We said to them, just say once that you are not a Baha'i, and we will let you go. but none of them did.
So for the next song, I'd like to share with you a short poetic verse that comes from the writings of Baha'u'llah. And I've just taken this verse and set it to a melody. And it's called the Sigh of Love. And this is actually quite a well-known verse among the writings of Baha'u'llah. And I have no doubt that these 10 women would have known this verse, probably by heart. And I can imagine that these words would have been a great source of inner strength and fortitude and patience and comfort throughout their ordeal, not only for them, but also for their family members. And so as I play the opening chords of this song, I'd like to ask Alia to read for us some memories of some of the members of the families of these women.
From Zareen's mother, they let me go into the morning. I never thought I would be able to carry on living after that moment. What I saw in that room and what I went through that day are indescribable. When I went in, oh my God, I saw 10 angels sleeping motionless next to each other. I knew all of them. I had been in the same prison with them. There were mother and daughter, Izat and Roya, laying there. What strength kept me breathing and on my feet? I don't know. I visited all 10 angels. I found Zareen, embraced her cold body, and put my cheek against her delicate and cold face. I kissed the mark of the rope on her beloved neck on behalf of all of her family. Her face looked natural and tranquil. For Mona's sister, the pain I felt that day was the same as when I heard the news of my father's martyrdom. I thought I would go mad. The prospect was so painful that psychologically I refused to accept it. Instead, I imagined the day when she would return home, her footsteps, her laughter, her lovely voice. I imagined embracing and kissing my beautiful sister. I wanted to share the pain of our father's martyrdom with her, and I needed to talk to her about the painful days when they were all in prison. I wanted her to share with me the suffering she had gone through. I had plans for us to be together and support our mother. So many thoughts rushed through my head in the moment when I heard the tragic news of the martyrdoms. I hoped that someone would come in and say it wasn't true. I was still kneeling beside Mona. It was a bitter experience seeing my sister for the last time without a glass partition to separate us. I kissed her cold cheek and said goodbye to her. With all my heart, I wish she would open her eyes and let me see her smile one last time. But I knew she was observing us from above with an eternal smile, and one teardrop would break her heart. Thus, my beautiful Mona, I smile for the love you have for Baha'u'llah and humankind. May the world discover why you sacrificed your life.
Oh, Son of Man, for everything there is a sign, the sign of love is fortitude. The sign of love Son of Man, for everything there is a sign, the sign of love is fortune. The sign of love is patience. Under my decree, under my trial, under my decree, under my trial. So, some of you may have noticed in one of the earlier songs, I sang a particular lyric that referred to a girl. The line said, "That girl who kissed the moose and welcomed all abuse." Well, that girl was Mona. Mona Mahmoud-Nishad. Mona was the youngest of the 10. She was just 17 years old when she was hanged, simply because of her faith. And you can kind of get an impression from these photographs that Mona was a vibrant, joyful, artistic, life-loving young girl. She played the guitar. She loved dancing and fooling around. She obviously loved her family very much here with her father. And she was very devoted to teaching these children's classes that I spoke about earlier. Outside of her school time, she dedicated much of her spare time to nurturing young children and giving her time to teach them about things like good character and what the important things in life really are. And she was very devoted to this. Even when she knew that this was dangerous, she continued to give her time and her energy and her loving attention to these children, because even at 17 years of age, Mona knew that the future of humanity lies in the education and nurturing of children, of the next generation. And even as a 17-year-old girl, she knew this, and she was dedicated to it. And, you know, over the past year, through this Our Story is One campaign, just in my own learning process, reading about these women and learning their story, I've just been so blown away by the courage of these women, this extraordinary constructive resilience that these women possessed. But the courage of 17-year-old Mona is something truly extraordinary, because on the night of their execution, when the 10 women were brought from the prison cell to the public square of their city, Shiraz, to be hanged, all in a single night, one after another, 17-year-old Mona insisted on going last, because she knew how painful it would be for her friends to have to watch a 17-year-old girl be killed in front of them. She wanted to spare them the trauma of having to witness that. And she wanted to stand and support her friends in their final moments. But the maturity of this decision, just the profound maturity of this decision, it's almost hard to comprehend. It's almost otherworldly, because this decision meant that not only did Mona herself have to watch as her 9 friends were hanged before her eyes, but it also meant that when her turn came, she had no friend left to support her, no one to look into her eyes one last time with love, no one to just whisper a word of friendship to her. She had to go to the executioner completely alone. And when the executioner put the rope around her neck, Mona stood up tall, and she raised her head high, and she kissed the noose. And I'd like to ask Cassandra, would you share with us a memory from Mona's mother about one of the last conversations that they had?
She looked into my eyes and said, "Mama, I know I would be killed. I just want to tell you what I'm planning to do. If you don't let me tell you now, we will lose this chance forever, and then you'll feel sorry that you didn't let me talk. Now, do you want me to tell you or not?" Haltingly, I agreed. "Okay, tell me." Mona held my elbow and started to walk. You know, the place where the woman hangs is probably going to be higher than the ground, so they can put the rope around our necks. I will first get permission to kiss the hands of whoever puts the rope around my neck. You know, Mama, I think they would definitely let me do that. I will then explain that we Baha'is are not allowed to kiss anyone's hand except the hand of a murderer. That hand must be kissed, because it will speed up our journey towards our beloved. Then I will kiss the rope, and to be hanged with. Then I will ask for their permission again to say this prayer. As she was standing in front of me, she closed her eyes, crossed her hands on her chest, and in a very spiritual manner, like a lover singing a song of her beloved. She chanted a prayer, and then she opened her eyes and said, "And then I will pray for true happiness of all mankind, and I will say goodbye to this mortal life and leave to go to my Lord." I looked at her, I couldn't see. I'd heard her, I couldn't comprehend what she was saying. On the one hand, my emotional attachment to her was frightening me. And on the other hand, she had taken me to the beautiful spiritual world. 10 days later, she was killed.
So ever since I heard this story, I've always been very struck by this final act, this final moment of Mola's life. What did this mean? Why did she kiss the noose? And I wonder if maybe in that moment, the noose represented her sacrifice. It represented everything that she was willing to give her life for. It represented everything that she was unwilling to compromise on. It represented her commitment to her faith, her commitment to loving humanity no matter what, her commitment to educating and nurturing children no matter what. And like her ancestor Cyrus the Great, it represented her unbreakable dedication to freedom of belief for all. And so, in this next song, the lyrics have a kind of a poetic angle. And I've written these lyrics from the point of view of the noose. And in the song, I am imagining this scene on the night of June 18th, 1983. The women are brought from the prison, they're put on the bus, and they're delivered to the public square. The executioner is there, perhaps there are some authorities present to oversee the event. And in the song, I am imagining that of all the people present in this scene, the only being who actually can see the truth of these women, the only being that can see their inner beauty, their goodness, their heart, is this little piece of rope, this noose. And the noose falls in love with these women and considers it the greatest privilege to be so close to these 10 remarkable souls in this moment. And the noose sings to these women, crying out to them, "You told me that love is queen and freedom is life. And I held you so close to me, and I longed for nothing more than to die with you." So this song is called "To Die With You." And it's dedicated to Roya, to Mashi, Mona, Shirley, Zari, Ezat, Simi, Nusrat, Tahirih, and Akhtar. I was there when the heavens bowed their heads and the earth stood full. With her eyes awash with red, I touched your hair. In a moment out of time, how could I ask for more? How could I dare demand a sign? I saw you there on the coldest prison mile. How did you stay so fair? How did you find the grace to smile? I kissed your hair while the moon was cleft in two. I had no need for prayer. Every thread of my soul was tied to you. We danced in 1,000 worlds beneath the brilliant blue sky, and the rays of the sun paled before the gleam in your eye. You told me that love is queen and that freedom is life, and I held you so close to me, and I نصرت عزت احترسیمی مولا زرینی رویا شیرینی طاهر محشی نصرت عزت احترسیمی مولا زرین رویا شیرین طاهر محشی نصرت عزت احترسیمی. Thank you all. So this now brings us to the end of our musical journey. And I was thinking to myself, I'm just wondering what we could all take away from this journey. When we step out the door and go back into our lives, what can we take with us? So I wanted to offer you something to bring with you when you leave tonight. And something that I think is very important to remember is that while outwardly this story is a tragic story of story of these 10 women whose lives and futures and dreams were stolen from them under completely unjust circumstances. Inwardly, we look under the surface of this story. This is a story of extraordinary courage and deep inner, we might say spiritual strength. The strength to do the right thing, even in the face of extreme hardship. And so, what I wanted to offer you was a question. I wanted to offer you a question to take with you, and it's just a private question you can take away and think about it in your own way, and I'm sure we will all have our own unique individual response to this question. And the question is, what do these 10 women inspire me to do? What do these 10 women inspire me to do? Even though these women accepted what was happening with extraordinary strength and courage, these women wanted to live. They wanted to live and continue doing what they were doing in their lives. And these were women who really profoundly believed this. Our story is one, in a very deep way. And they were dedicating their time and their lives to living that belief, to promoting understanding between people of different backgrounds, to building peace in collaboration with the people around them. They were very devoted to this, and they had a vision of hope for the future in their hearts, and that vision was so powerful to them that they refused to give up on it, even at the cost of their own lives. These women, for example, were teaching these children's classes, nurturing young people, spending time with the future generations to make the world better for everyone. They knew that our story is one not only backwards into human history, but also forwards as a human family, moving forward towards a better future. And so, with that in mind, I wanted to finish with one last short song, which I'd like to sing in the Irish style, with no guitar, just voice. And this is a song what these women believed in. This is a song about universal human solidarity, and it's about the importance of wishing each other well, no matter who we are or where we come from. And it's inspired by what these women believed in and gave their lives for. This song is called Song for My Brother. Oh, brother, well, I wish you on your journey homeward. Oh, may you treasure every step along the way. So I will see you where the river meets the ocean, underneath the shelter of the greatest name. Oh, may your heart and soul ascend unto the kingdom. Peace be upon you and upon your family. And may the gentle winds of heaven's revelation breathe upon you breezes of eternity. Oh, brother, we are but the drops of one great ocean. Oh, we are leaves upon the branches of one tree. One heart between us, and between us only one soul, to sing aloud the sweetest songs of unity. Inspiration and optimism for the future too. Thank you all for coming.
I don't know if there's a dry eye in the room, or our hearts are filled with so much inspiration, and I feel like we're all inspired to somehow take this idea of constructive resilience and apply it in some small way in our own lives after this evening. So if we could please thank Luke again for this. And a few quick reminders. Please do share, if you took video or even live stream, please do share it on social media. If you joined us a little bit later, Our Story is One campaign is in honor of the 40th anniversary of the execution of the 10 Baha'i women that we just learned about. The stories are so beautiful, and the campaign seeks to create worldwide solidarity with all people in Iran who continue continue to struggle for freedom and equality. So for this reason, we do want to share this far and wide. And so if you do share it, again, we ask that you put hashtag our story is one, our, O-U-R, story is one, when you're posting this. So please do. To connect with Luke online, please feel free to, I think, scan the QR codes that are on display. And we all want to support the work of artists, particularly ones who move us so deeply and inspire us. So if you'd like to support Luke's work, please do so through his website, lukeslot.com. So easy to remember. So thank you all again, and most importantly, thank you to Luke for really such amazing support. Thank you all for coming this evening from far and wide. It's so beautiful to see all of you and your faces. Please feel free to stay and mingle, and there's some refreshments in the back as well. Thank you all again.
So that's why who's on and you always got the command after. The creator of Blox Fruit is no, not it.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.